to nextQuery Recommendation Management Overview. Our best advice on how to lose sales basically comes down to this. Build a system around what other people bought and looked at as the foundation for your recommendations. That way, when somebody comes in to look for a particular item that you're selling, you want to show them exactly the same thing or you want to show them completely different things. 93% of sites that we've researched distract the customer from their core interests that they're coming to the site for. So in this case, we have a customer that has selected an item and the site is suggesting exactly the same item. There's no upsell or cross-sell opportunities for any related products or accessories associated to their item of interest. If you go completely the opposite end of the spectrum, customers can be easily distracted by things that are completely irrelevant to what they're looking at. And this wastes everybody's time. So how do you win at this? Well, basically focus on what works. So if a customer comes in and looks at a particular item for sale, you want to show them two things: what's needed and what's compatible with it. Some research has been done that shows that 79% of customers actually want this type of information before and after a sale. How does nextQuery help with all this? Well, let's take a look at this typical site layout. You'll notice here that everything's broken down by product categories and departments. We're going to talk about categories first. We'll talk about departments in a moment. A product category is basically just a collection of the same types of items. They have the same basic attributes, they just differ in values. The nice thing about nextQuery is that you can add your own attributes to this from a marketing perspective to kind of create new and interesting ways to relate the information. The way we do that is by creating recommendation rules. A rule can be something as simple as says this needs this, or you can actually come in and add a little bit more control to it to say, oh, the color must match what's in the jar. That basic approach applies to everything in the system. So whether it's colors to scents or scents to physical things like jars, or whether it's jars to the various accessories, does it fit? Is it the right collection? Is it the right color? Or is it needed in some way? Once you've defined your product classifications, you just have to load your data into it. To do that, you can take data from a database, a CSV file, or an Excel file, or through some of our APIs to load the data remotely. Once the data is loaded and you have your relationships, you now have managed recommendations. The system will automatically derive all of the delivered recommendations to your customers based on the selections that they choose. So if a customer starts off with a color orange, it will show all scents related to the color orange or all candles that are related to the color orange. If they start off with scents, the specific scent that they choose will show them related jar candles that are of the same scent. So now that we have our content and our relationships computed, the big question is how do we prune this down into departments so that people can basically navigate based on their application purpose? Well, we call those configurations in nextQuery, and basically a configuration is a subset of your data. The subset can contain two things: the categories that are involved and also a filter that controls the content within each of those categories. So in this case, if I have a large spaces configuration of components, I may have a filter that limits only medium and large candles to be included within this. We could do the same thing for small spaces, except maybe put a different rule on for which candles are to be brought into the small spaces. And then also maybe an automotive option too, which includes a tremendously reduced set of information. One of the neat things that we've added within nextQuery is the ability to eliminate excess information. So in this particular case, we have over 262 items that would be available by default, but the amount of content that's available is actually quite a bit less, as you can see here. So the problem here is that we could present more information to a customer than is actually available from related content, meaning you create a lot of dead ends. To get rid of that, nextQuery has the ability to basically remove all the orphaned content, the things that have no connections to any relevant content within this configuration of components. So that would reduce the number of scents to 62 from 262 in this case, so that if a customer chose a scent, it would show either the jar fragrance or the vent fragrance or both, depending on whether there was a connection to it or not. nextQuery supports your organization in multiple ways, whether it be a direct customer engagement through your website, or whether it's through a wizard that allows customers to navigate your product structures, rules, and relationships through nextQuery directly, or whether it's taking historical customer purchase data, supplying it to direct marketing, bouncing it off nextQuery, and providing highly accurate recommendations to customers based on new products that have been added to your system or things that were not purchased. Thank you for watching this overview of nextQuery recommendation management. Please reach out to us if you have any questions or would like to schedule a demo.